कया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायण गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। श्रीकृष्णलीलाकथने सुदक्षं औदार्यमाधुर्यगुणैशयुक्तं वरं वरेण्यं पुरुषं महान्तं श्रीनारायणं त्वं शिरसा नमामि। त्रिदण्डिनां भक्तशिरोमणिं च श्रीकृष्णपादाब्जधृतये हृदि चैतन्यलीलामृतसारसारं नारायणं त्वं सततं प्रपद्ये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्याय नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमस्तुते। श्याम सुंदर शिखंड शेखर स्मेरहास मुरली मनोहर राधिका रसिक मां कृपा निधे स्वप्रिया चरण किंकरीं कुरु। गोवर्धनधरं वन्दे गोपालं गोपरूपिणां गोकुलोत्सवम् ईशानं गोविन्दं गोपिकाप्रियं। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी श्रीराधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्नय माम चरणान्तिके। भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्ष्यै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्यै कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So, first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances at the divine lotus feet of my most worshipable spiritual master, His Divine Grace Sril Bhaktivedant Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of Satchidanand Thakur Sril Bhaktivinod, unto the lotus feet of our Rupanuga Guru Varga, and to all the assembled devotees. So, we have been, by the mercy of Shishi Guru and Gauranga, studying the 7th chapter of Jaiva Dharam. We started this on the first day of this very auspicious month of Purushottam. And today is the last day of Purushottam Maha. So, again, this time the start and end both were on the weekends. So, very fortunate that again on the last day of Purushottam Mas, we are able to continue the study of Jaiva Dharam. So we are doing chapter 7, and so many important points are described in chapter 7. Sometimes when there is so much philosophy, the question comes, do we really need to understand all this philosophy? We can just chant, we can just, do other services, and that's perfectly fine, right? That's ultimately chanting and doing seva or hearing some pastimes of the Lord. That's the goal. So going through such deep philosophy and so much elaboration, is it really important? Well, it is important, and that's the reason our acharyas have written profusely. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written Jaivdharam so that we have a strong foundation of our spiritual life. Just like for a building, unless the foundation is strong and deep, then it can, when a hurricane comes or if there is some other storm and earthquake, the building can collapse. So, similarly, our acharyas have always stressed that we should have a very clear and deep understanding of the Siddhanta. Then, in any circumstance, we will not waver, or we will be firmly established in the path of bhakti and will be able to make progress very fast. So, therefore, we are have so much gratitude, so grateful to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas, to our Gurudev, by whose mercy we have received these beautiful scriptures. So, what did we study in the last class of Jaiva Dharam? So, the discussion started by a very interesting question that the sadhus also live in this world and they also seem to be suffering from various miseries of material existence. They feel also hungry, they also need to wear clothes, they also seem to have some physical ailments. Then how can they deliver other jivas? So Anant Das Babaji had replied that even though they appear to be like other living entities, but there's a gulf of difference between their life and the life of ordinary conditioned entities who are completely absorbed in sense gratification because they are internally completely connected with Krishna and they have vivek, discrimination of what is spirit and what is matter. And from there, he explained the four categories of people who possess spiritual insight. They are called Viveki. And if you remember the diagram, there are four of them. First is Viveki. The second one was Mumukshu. And then Mukta, or means liberated. And the fourth category was Bhakta, or the devotees. And then he explained that how it is so rare to find a pure devotee of the Lord. And then he explained the two conditions that the devotees live in. What are those conditions? The Grihast Bhaktas, who are the householders, and then the Tyagi Bhaktas, who are the renunciates. They could be the Brahmacharis, they could be in the Vanpras or the Sannyas ashram. So then he asked the question, what is the nature of the Grihast Bhaktas or the householders with this world? And there was an elaborate commentary that last time we studied, Shri Gurudev had written, explaining Bhaktivinoda Thakur's point that in the Kali Yuga, it is best to be in the householder life. So Shri Gurudev explained it from different perspectives that while sannyas ashram is the highest, without any argument, and Krishna also says that the sannyas ashram is manifested from his forehead, whereas the householder ashram is manifested from his thighs. So just from the position of his spiritual body, where these ashrams are manifested from, they are higher or lower. And someone who can completely renounce and has no attraction for material sense enjoyment, without a doubt, that person is the highest, and therefore sannyas ashram is the highest. But because in this Kali Yuga, in this age of Kali, most people will not be able to get to that stage because of so much effect of Maya. Therefore, the householder ashram is best because there is no fear of falling down. Because if one prematurely accepts the renounced order and then again falls back into married life, then that is very bad. So therefore, one should make these change from one ashram to the another ashram very carefully. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying, that in general, it is good to stay in the household life till one gets to the point of that renunciation. So there, from there, we will now continue. So the next question, the Yadav Das ji asks, he says that the grihasthas, the householders, they live in this society, so they are, of course, obliged to follow the various, the jurisdiction of the smart Brahmins. What that means, especially in India, there's so many in the society who follow rituals. There are different social customs that one has to follow. And if you don't follow, then you get harassed by the people from the society. So then his question was, under such circumstances, how can one practice Shuddha Bhakti or pure devotion? A very practical question, right? We live in the society, we have families who may not necessarily be devotees. Then how do we relate with them? So Anandas Babaji says that, well, those who are householders, they're certainly obliged to carry out social conventions. What are the examples of that? You have sons and daughters, they need to be married. You have deceased forefathers, and there is shraddh that is performed for them. So that performance has to be done. Like this, there are certain ritualistic ceremonies. Similarly, when someone passes away, leaves the body, then also some sanskar has to be performed. So there are these various customary ceremonies that have to be performed. But he cautions that while these have to be performed, these rituals have to be performed, one should not engage in the ritualistic activities meant only to fulfill material ambitions. So he differentiates between two types of ritualistic practices. One that has to be performed for important events in your life, like the marriage of your children, or offering the shraddh to the forefathers, or performing the ceremony at the time of a deceased person in the family. But the other ritualistic practices, and there's so many of them, and many of the temples, the Hindu temples, that's what they focus on. They perform on many rituals, many yagyas, which are simply done for fulfilling material desires. So if you are having some problem in life, then you can go and, engage a priest to perform some rituals to calm, to pacify some of the planets like Rahu or Ketu. So these are all ritualistic things only for material gains. So he cautions against them. He says when it comes to, and this is the very practical thing, that he says that when we have to maintain a livelihood, right? All of us are living in a physical body. That physical body needs to be maintained. So it is not possible to call oneself completely nirpeksh. Nirpeksh means devoid of all needs. Now, well, there are examples of like Shukadeva Goswami, but he's an eternally liberated person with a spiritual body. They can live without eating, sleeping, they can live without and wearing any clothes. But he says that all conditioned living entities, they have they need to depend on others and to make a livelihood for fulfilling these basic needs. For example, you depend on medicine. When you fall sick, you need some medicine. Then, when you are hungry, you need food to eat, you need clothing. When it is very cold, you need some warm clothes, you need shelter. So, all of this need some money. So, nirpeksh really means, so now he explains what does that really mean. So, nirpeksh really means to reduce one's necessities as far as possible. For no one can be absolutely independent as long as he has a material body. So I said, what does this mean to be devoid of needs? What does it really mean to be nirpeksh? Is that only try to earn as much as is required for maintenance of yourself as well as your family, plus an emergency fund. Right now, because of our previous karma, we are going to get the fruits in this life, right? So that nobody can stop. So some money will come on its own accord. You may get an inheritance, or sometimes by doing a little effort, you may end up making a lot of money. So what is ever is destined, it will come. But the point in devotional life is that a devotee should understand that human life, every moment is so important that if I'm going to waste it in struggles to make money which is over and above my needs, then I am wasting that precious time which could otherwise be used for in Krishna consciousness, reading, chanting, serving, right? If we see most of us, and especially in the Western world, and that's now kind of a malaise around the world, we are in this, race for accumulation, and we are accumulating much more than what we really need. I think most of us would remember our grandparents or grandparents when they lived, their lives were comparatively much simpler. They didn't have as many things within their home as today we have, right? Cabinets filled, drawers filled, everything is filled with stuff. And then it is also so much energy to take care and maintain all of it. So that's where those who are in path of bhakti, they should use some discretion. They should try to limit the accumulation of things that are unnecessary. He says this is what is meant by Nirpesh. He says it is best to be as free as possible from material dependency, for that is more conducive to advancement in bhakti. See, our material desires can never be satiated. When Lord Vamandev came to Maharaj Bali, so Maharaj Bali told him that ask whatever you want. And what did Lord Vamandev ask? He only asked for 3 feet of land, 3 steps of land. So Bali said, I thought you were very intelligent, but you're still just a little boy, and that tells me that your intelligence is not very mature. I am the king of the entire world. I could have given you an entire island, meaning an entire continent, but you are only asking me for 3 steps of land. So Lord Vamandev says that one whose desires are not satisfied, even if he gets the entire earth, the entire planet, what to talk of just one continent, even if he gets the entire universe, he will not be satisfied, because that's a nature of desire. Right? So we just heard of Elon Musk, so-called the first trillionaire, right? Do you think his desires are satisfied? He has more than enough to eat and sleep and have palaces. But he's going to keep working and working at the cost of many other people's lives. So this is the problem in today's society and of material consciousness, that we are accumulating so much at the cost of many other people's livelihoods. And therefore, one in even in making money like this, one incurs so much sin, which at some point is going to show its result. So as devotees, again, one should be very careful just to earn and earn with properly as per the religious principles. So that's very important, making money as per the religious principles. Because if we make money, all of people here, I think we're all in proper professions. That's a good thing. But a lot of time when people are in business, especially I've seen in India, they they follow all kind of corrupt practices. A lot of government officers, they follow a lot of corrupt practices, and the money that is earned that way, it is going to have a very negative effect, because the food that you eat, if it is purchased from money that is earned irreligiously, that is going to have a very negative effect on you as well as your family members. So, therefore, here he's saying that one should not be dependent on too much accumulation. There was a very famous doha which we learned as children when we were in school. Those times we used to have these as part of our curriculum, and one of them, it's in Hindi. It says, "Sai itna dijiye jaake kutumb samaye, मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं साधु ना भूखा जाए." So this devotee is praying, "Oh Lord, give me just as much that Sai itna dijiye jaake kutum samay, that I can take care of my family, I can feed them, and also if a sadhu comes to my doorstep, I can also take care of them. But beyond that, I don't have any desire." So all the activities that I mentioned before, Anant Das ji says, become free from defect only when one links them with Krishna. So this is another important thing he's saying. He says those rituals also, whether it's the marriage of sons and daughters or performing Shraddh, they become free from any uh, defects when they are connected to Krishna. So he gives an example. So when one enters marriage, so at that time, instead of thinking that I am marrying to fulfill my, sensual desires, the mood should be that I am marrying someone who's a maidservant of Krishna, so that we can assist each other in Krishna's service and establish Krishna centered family together. So, as we were discussing last time, also, this is the whole point of Varnashram Dharam is to purify oneself as one goes from Brahmacharya to Grihastha and then to Vanprastha. So the intent should be correct, right? So if the intent of marriage is that we will live together to serve the Lord, and of course, when one is in the married life, there is some enjoyment, but that is not the goal. The goal is that we assist each other in making spiritual progress. And similarly, if the children are there, then also bring them up in as Krishna conscious kids. And similarly, then he gives the example of Shraddha ceremony. So this is something we perform for our forefathers. But again, those who are in devotional life, so first of all, the point to understand is as Lord Nrsimhadev blessed Prahlad, that even someone is a Kanisht Adhikari, 7 generations are liberated. So they have not gone to Pitrilok. They're not suffering there. But still we perform Shraddh. But the right way to perform, if you are performing Shraddh as a devotee, the right way to perform, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains here, is instead of doing it in the smart ritualistic way, you cook bhog and then offer to Thakurji. It can be done at the temple, or if there is no temple close by, you can do it at home, cook it, offer to the deities or to the picture of Radha Krishna at your home. And then after that, make that a plate with prasad. So once it's offered to the Lord, then in another plate, then offer it to your forefathers. So your father or grandfather, who's ever Shraddh, the all forefathers, a Shraddh is being performed. Offer it to them, and then after that, generally in India, because cows are available, one goes and feeds that what is offered to the forefather, or everything in that plate is given to a cow. And then also, if you can invite Vaishnavs, then also invite them, and then also have serve them with this Mahaprasadam. So it says this way, any defect in that ritualistic ceremony is taken away. So he says all the smart rituals are karma. So meaning any these ritualistic practices, if we perform, they are karma. Even if they may be pious activities, and they are binding unless and until one combines them with bhakti. So just like the other day, Maharaj was also giving example, right? I'm sitting on this chair and another person on in the next chair, and I am bound with golden chains, and the other person is bound with iron chains. Now I am very happy. Oh, see how fortunate I am. I am bound by golden chains. And the other person, you're looking down upon him, or you are bound with iron chains. But my dear friend, both of us are bound. You are also bound, even though maybe golden chains, but you are still restricted. You are not free. You can't move around because you are bound. So similarly, even if one performs these ritualistic practices, there's some piety in there. You are gaining some pious credits, but at the same time, they are like golden chains because they're going to keep you bound in the material existence. He says, therefore, karma that is enjoined in the Vedas is not unfavorable to bhakti so long as one performs it during one's practice of Shuddha Bhakti. So as we are performing devotional practice, living in householder life, so many activities have to be performed. But art of Krishna consciousness is to learn how to dovetail each one of them, every activity with the Lord. Right? So as we connect them to the Lord as a service to Guru and Krishna, to the Vaishnavas, and once we learn this art, this consciousness, if we perform every activity, then there is no defect in it. That's why the example of the Brajbasis is given. They were all householders. Right? Krishna, Mother Yashoda, Nand Baba, all the gopis, Srimati Radharani, everyone is living in a householder life, but completely their minds are attached to Krishna. So everything that they're performing is in the mood of loving devotional, Anukulen Krishna Anushilinam, giving so much pleasure to Shri Krishna. So he says that this is called this Nishkam Karam Yog, a real, this is, if one connects all of this to Shuddh Bhakti, then there is, everything becomes very favorable. So one should perform all these ordinary activities in a renounced spirit, and all the spiritual activities should be performed in the association of devotees, and then there is no fault. And then he says that if you see the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not all, most of them were actually householders. So, for example, the Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, right? We sing this Panch Tattva mantra. So Mahaprabhu took sannyas, but Nityananda Prabhu also entered householder life. Mother Jahanwa, she became the leader of the Vaishnav society after Nityanand Prabhu left. So Nityanand Prabhu was a householder. Advaitacharya was always a householder. Srivas Thakur was a householder. In his every day in the night, Mahaprabhu and all his associates in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur, that's called Shiva Sangan, they will perform Sankirtan. So many of the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were all householders. So he says, similarly, Dhruv, Prahlad, so Prahlad from the age of 5 was from the womb, he was such a great devotee, and Uttam Mahabhagavat, but he also entered householder life. But he says, and Pandavas. Pandavas are eternal associates of the Lord. They're all Grihastha Bhaktas. So being in a householder does not mean as a householder that you cannot become a pure devotee. You should know that Grihastha Bhaktas are also highly respected in the world. So the important point is that who is how much devoted to the Lord. And that is the yardstick of one's level of advancement in bhakti. While ashram is very important, sannyas ashram is the highest, but the more important thing is how much is one internally surrendered. Because if externally one may have in the renounced order, but still attached to various things, it could be attached to money, attached to one's position or followers or temples, buildings, then also it is, that's also a form of attachment. That is not complete renunciation. Yesterday, I think yesterday or today, Gurudev's, every single day, Gurudev's videos come, and there's a little clip like a reel, and Shyamarani Didi asked Gurudev that is Guru attached to his disciples? And Gurudev said, no, Guru is not attached, but he loves his disciple. So Shyamarani Didi says, well, love and attachment is the same thing. Gurudev said, no, there's a gulf of difference. So he has a lot of compassion for his disciples. He loves them, right? But he's not attached to them. Attachment is only to Krishna, right? So a real guru is not attached to the disciples. So what that Gurudev is saying, he's not thinking, oh, this is my disciple, now I can get his money, now he can do this seva to me, that seva to me, oh, now I have 100,000 disciples. No, that attachment is very bad. But he loves, his love, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur will also give this as one of the symptoms of one who can renounce householder life. Love means he feels compassion. He sees that they are suffering in the material world, and therefore he does so much hard work, the spiritual master, to bring them out of material ignorance. So here he says that the Grihast Bhaktas are also very highly respected. Then Yadav Das ji says, the next question he says, if they are so highly respected, why do some of them renounce household life? Then they can just stay in householder life, right? What is the point of giving up. So many Mahaprabhu's disciples were also like that, just like our Gurudev. He was also a householder, but at the age of 25, 26, he completely renounced when he came into the association of devotees who had come to his village. When he heard Hari Katha from them, even though he was householder, he had a family, wife and children, but he left everything. So then he says, why do some people renounce? So Anant Das ji says, some Grihas Bhaktas are eligible to renounce their householder life, but such Vaishnavas are very few in this world and their association is rare. So he says very few people will actually and genuinely be able to renounce. And now he will explain this in great detail in the next few questions, and that's where it is so important to understand. When Shri Gurudev left his family, he lived in Tiwaripur, left his family, came to Param Gurudev, and surrendered completely unto him. He says, all the attachment that I have or had for my family, my parents, my job, everything, oh my Gurudev, I'm surrendering everything, offering everything at your lotus feet. What does that mean? That after that, his family tried so much to take him back, but they were not successful. But his own attachment to his Gurudev, our Param Gurudev Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, was so strong that because of that attachment, the rest of his family members also became devotees. Gurudev's father, and then his children, then his brothers. We recently visited his village Tiwaripur, and it is actually true that his not only his sons, but his sons' sons also became devotees, and now some of them, even their children. So these are like great grand disciples of Gurudev, have also taken initiation. So this is the, if someone is genuinely renounced, then he can change his whole family. So then Yadav Das ji says, he asks the question, then kindly explain how one becomes eligible to renounce household life. So here now he explains, he says, people have two types of tendencies. One tendency is bahirmukh, external, outward tendency, and the other one is inward tendency, antarmukh. The Vedas refer to these two tendencies as being focused outward toward the external world and focused inward toward the soul. So our tendency, in most of the case, for most of the people, is focused to the outside world. Right? We are only aspiring for things of sense enjoyment. All our efforts are generally focused for obtaining objects of sense gratification. This is called bahirmukh or external tendency. But internal, antarmukh dasha, is when we are seeing internally for that pleasure. See, tendency of what, our focus, what does this mean? Why are we looking for acquiring things? I need a new laptop, a new iPhone comes, and everyone is standing in line for hours to get a new iPhone. Well, are you going to hear the voice better? No. It's still just a phone. It's still, you can do everything with your current phone, but ready to spend so much money. Why? Because they think we will get happiness. So right now, the World Cup is happening and people are spending $700, $2,000 to watch one soccer game, right? Because they think, and of course they seem to get pleasure, that, oh, I will get a lot of pleasure by watching, ready to spend any amount of money. But once that game is over, then are you going to continue getting that pleasure? No. So it's fleeting pleasure. But when one looks internal inside, for pleasure, and this is real pleasure, that is called antarmukh dasha. In fact, I always say that if you want to become rich, become a devotee, right? Because then you don't have to spend money on all these external things for having any kind of enjoyment. Because in bhakti, simply by following the principles of devotional service, chanting, hearing, rendering service, where you don't have to spend a penny, right? Angel Prabhu, he does so much seva. When you go to the temple and you have to wash pots or do you have to spend money? No, right? But you feel so blissful. But anything that you go out for enjoyment, you have to end up spending money. So he says, when the pure spirit soul forgets his true identity, he identifies with the mind as the self, although the mind is really only a part of the subtle material body. So now he's saying that we identify ourselves with the mind, and mind is only external. It is only the is part of the subtle body. So our subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. But why is it that we identify with the mind, and that's in fact we have no realization of the soul, but we are completely under the control of the mind. As the mind is dictating, we are doing all our activities. And why is it so? Because mind is the closest to the physical body. So if you look at this diagram, so we have the physical body, and then you have the soul. The soul is inside, right? It's a spiritual spark. And then between the soul and the physical body, there is the subtle body, which consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now, out of these three, the closest to the physical body is the mind, and closest to the soul is the false ego, and in between sits them the intelligence.
Your
So, what does that mean?
the
It is when the
intelligence
soul
is close to the soul. You see, intelligence is this one.
So I think please if you can mute your phone. So if the soul, here he says, having identified with the mind in this way, the soul takes assistance from the doorway of the senses and becomes attracted to external sense objects. So the soul, when because of the false ego, because of the desire to enjoy independent of Krishna, when gets this false ego that I am the enjoyer. What is a false ego? That I am the enjoyer. The real ego is I am the eternal servant of Krishna. The false ego is I am the enjoyer. And then the intelligence becomes clouded. And then the mind takes over. And then the mind, through the 10 senses, the five knowledge acquiring senses, and the uh, five working senses, then it basically does all the various actions and enjoyments. So I know Atma Vidya, do you have a question?
Yes,
Yes.
true. It's actually about the image because it has soul is listed there twice. There's the super soul with the arrow that goes to the soul, that then goes to the mind, intelligence, false ego, and then in the center is the soul again. Can you explain the differences between the soul with the sun and then the soul that's listed under super soul?
Yeah, so this is just basically saying that soul is a spiritual spark, right? So it's a part of so it's manifested, like Krishna says, Mame Vansha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. So look at more on the left hand side. This is showing how the soul, the subtle body, and the physical body are related. And on the right hand side, it's basically showing, in a similar way, but at the same time, it adds another point here that soul is ultimately the part of the spiritual sun, Krishna, right? It's in its pure stage, it's pure. But when it comes into the material realm, right? In the material realm, which is this box, that's when it gets this false ego. And when it comes out of that material realm, then it is completely pure.
Okay, got it. So is that also to say then that when we purify the soul through bhakti, that then we release false ego, intelligence, and mind? Like all of that is just a part of the physical world. So in the transcendental abode, we would not have these elements a part of the subtle body?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So first of all, we don't purify the soul because the soul is always pure. What we are purifying is our ego, right? So first starting with purification of the mind, that's why it says Cheto Darpan Marjanam. So starting with the mind, intelligence, and the ego, then it is purified that I am not the enjoyer, but I am the servant of the Lord. So then this is called then Swarup Siddhi, when one understands one's spiritual body, right? Just like we have the physical body, what my swarup is when one understands that. So when Vastu Siddhi happens, when one goes to the spiritual world, then one has the real ego, the spiritual ego. But then, of course, their mind intelligence, they are not. There is also, it is explained, there is also a sukshma sharir, but it is the spiritualized sukshma sharir, because there also you have a body, right? So there also, whether you are in the body of a friend of Krishna, or as a manjari, or any other form in the spiritual world, there also one is thinking, right? Mother Yashoda is thinking that what should I cook for Krishna today? Right? So there is that power of thinking is there, which is done by the mind. One uses intelligence. There is also ego, but that real ego is purified ego. So to answer your question, yes, in the spiritual world also, there is the purified mind and purified ego, but what we have in the material world, that does not go to the spiritual world. It stays here only. It gets completely destroyed when one leaves the material world and goes to the spiritual realm.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Rituji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You spoke about attachment, that attachment should not be there. So just I got a thought that how about the attachment to your guru?
Yeah, so that attachment is not bad. Attachment to Krishna, attachment to Guru is not bad, right? The attachment from a material perspective, right? For material attachments, they are cause of misery, right? But spiritual attachments, they are liberating. When one becomes attached to Guru, one through that, because first one becomes attached to Guru, and then through that, a same attachment gets transferred to the attachment for the Lord. But see, that attachment should also be spiritual attachment,
Yeah.
attachment to Guru's instructions, attachment to, and there are all kind of, I don't want to go, sometimes people get attachment in a wrong way also, right? But if the attachment is to Gurudev from a spiritual perspective, that is the goal, right? Without being attached to Guru's instructions, one cannot make progress.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. So we'll continue. So then he, so one, so this is the difference how the mind controls us. He says, when one whose tendency is predominantly outward must conduct all external tendencies offenselessly with Krishna at the center through the strength of sadhu sangha. So, what he's explaining is that till the point when one becomes completely purified, till that point, one should perform all the activities, all the external tendencies, that because currently we are not that inward looking, right? Right now, we are not in a position that I can sit all day long and chant and chant and read and be engaged like our Guru Varga. So till that time, where our mind is still not controlled, he's saying perform all these activities with Krishna at the center, because right now we're in a learning stage, right? We are not, that devotion is not spontaneous, but through the strength of sadhu sangha. That's very important. The association is very important, because if we try to do without the association, again the mind will start wandering. So when the direction of one's tendency is completely inward, so by doing this slowly, what will happen? That outward tendency will start becoming more inward, and this is how we assess that how we are making progress spiritually. And this happens, right, in the beginning when we are chanting, or when there is, let's say, Harikatha every single, sometimes people feel, sometimes you may feel overwhelmed. Oh, I've done a lot. Oh, I've finished my 16 rounds. Let me now watch TV for some time, right? And oh, I have been going to the temple for 3 days continuously. Today, I just need to take a break. Or I've been reading every single day. I need to take a break. And that is fine, because we are at a stage where that natural taste has not arisen. But if you keep doing it in the association of devotees, slowly, what will happen? The taste will go away. And once you get the taste in the chanting, right now we chant 16 rounds more as a niyam, more as a rule to follow. But when you start getting taste in the holy name, then when 16 rounds are completed, when 32, when 64, you will not even have a count of it. So it's saying that when the directions of one's tendencies completely inward, the eligibility to renounce household life is born. But if one gives up household life before this stage is reached, there is a significant danger of falling down again. So this is the example I was giving before also. Shri Gurudev would say that when a leaf becomes completely dry on the tree, it automatically falls. Similarly, a fruit, like a mango tree, if the fruit completely ripens, it will fall automatically, right? It will be the most delicious when the fruit completely ripens. Nowadays, of course, in India especially, they pluck the fruits when they're still very green, and then using all kind of chemicals, they will try to make them ripe. So that's all artificial taste. So, and it is very injurious to health, right? So most of the fruits, this, in India especially, you get, they're all not completely ripened naturally. So here now we talk of organic. Organic means it has not been treated with anything chemical. It has gone through the whole process of maturing in a natural way. So similarly, the Varnashram system is designed for natural progression towards renunciation. That is the ultimate goal. Householder life is not the ultimate goal, even though one can be completely renounced staying as a householder, as many great devotees like the Pandavas were. But the ultimate goal is complete sense of complete detachment and complete attachment to the Lord. So he says, the Grihast ashram. Now, this is a very important thing he says. He says, Grihast ashram is a special school where the jivas learn about spiritual truth and get a chance to develop spiritual realization. They may leave the school when their education is complete. See how scientific the Vedic system is. Because, see, this is where I was saying before, the intent in the Vedic system was of the Varnashram that we are going through the process of purification. That's why in the Vedic system, and even just few years ago until recently, at least in India, most of the marriages are arranged marriages. And an arranged marriage is based more on the family saying, okay, they come from a good background. The background means, like in my parents and grandparents' days also, in our days also, they would mostly see whether the family is a cultured family. They have religious values. They don't have any bad thing about them said in the society. And then you can marry your daughter there because the families are cultured. So the point was, if the family has good culture, good religious principles they follow, then their sons and daughters will also have the same values. And when the husband and wife, when the boy and girl will marry, right, they many times, like in cases of our parents and grandparents, they did not even meet each other. Now, when such people marry, right, now you have to learn to adjust to each other. So there was no option of a divorce. No option is given. And the reason for that is that you learn to adjust with each other. Of course, bad things happen, but I'm just talking about why the marriage institution, where they live together, of course, respect each other, at the same time being two different personalities, you have to learn to adjust at the same time. This adjustment brings humility, right? Then you have children, you learn to sacrifice, which sometimes just living as a single person in the renounced life, one may not develop it. So that was a reason behind householder. Now that again does not mean, as Gurudev explained, we studied last time, that everyone has to enter householder life. That is not the meaning. One can, if one has that sense of renunciation, one can stay renounced, celibate all his life. The point he's trying to explain, saying that this is a special school because all the three other ashrams where one lives as a single person, as a brahmachari, vanprastha, or sannyasi, is that in this householder life, one learns to become humble, one learns to become tolerant, and this is very beneficial for one's spiritual progress. He says when that education is complete, one imbibes these values, which are very favorable for bhakti, right? So bhakti, the most important thing is humility, which comes if one lives properly in the householder life. You are bound to become humble. Why? Because you have to learn to adjust. So, but nowadays, because the marriages are happening more for sense enjoyment, neither humility comes nor tolerance develops. On the contrary, that's why the divorce takes place, because we are not tolerant, right? So, so then he says, what are the symptoms of a bhakta who's eligible to give up household life? What are their symptoms? So he gives 7 symptoms, and we'll see these briefly. What are those symptoms? He says the first symptom is that the person should be free from the desire to associate with the opposite sex. So basically, renunciation is applicable to both man and woman. It's not meaning it is only for men, but basically that desire should not be there. Should have unrestricted mercy toward all living entities. So this daya bhav, that should be there in a renunciant, because he does not renounce the world to enjoy himself. One does not become a sannyasi to have followers so that he can have a nice life, right? Unfortunately, many times nowadays these things happen, and that's what he's in the next couple of questions. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain this. But one takes up the order of renunciation to completely dedicate oneself to the service of Guru and Krishna. And what is that service? To bring the message of Mahaprabhu, of Krishna, to the people in the world who are suffering because of ignorance. So that is unrestricted mercy, mean towards all living entities, irrespective of their caste, color, creed. Towards all living entities, one should have the mood of mercy, and then be completely indifferent towards endeavors to accumulate wealth. One should strive only in times of need to acquire food and clothing suitable for maintaining himself. So now, of course, the traditional sannyas ashram was very strict. One would not keep anything. A sannyasi would go to a house for madhukari, and we have actually seen this in our childhood, that sometimes sannyasis would come to your home and they will only 3 times say, Bhiksham Dehi, Bhiksham Dehi, Bhiksham Dehi. Please give me alms, please give me alms, please give me alms. In that much time, if someone comes and gives them something, they will take, otherwise, go to the next house. So I remember as children many times will come, and our mother will, in a little utensil, will put some flour or sometimes rice, and tell us to go and give to the sadhu. And they will only go if they get from 2 houses or 3 houses begging enough that is for food for that day. They will not go to the third or the fourth house. So this is, of course, the traditional, the way it is explained. Nowadays, practically, it is sometimes not possible, but still in many rural areas in India, still that custom is followed. Then one should have unconditional love for Sri Krishna, should shun the association of materialists, and should be free from attachment and aversion in life and death. What does that mean? That one should be completely dedicated to the service of the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in a bhajan, Manas Deha Geha Jo Kichu Mor, Marabi Rakhabi Jo Ichha Tohar, Nitya Das Pratitwa Adhikar. That, O Lord, I am your dedicated servant, completely surrendered. Whether you keep me or you kill me, Marabi Rakhabi Jo Ichha Tohar, whatever is your desire, you do. I am your surrendered servant. So this is the mood of surrender. That's why if we see our sannyasis also, right, they are traveling all over the world because of that complete faith that wherever I go, Krishna will take care of me. So it's a lot of strain physically to travel all the time, to go to so many places, but this is the sign of renunciation. So he explains these, and then he quotes certain verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And in these verses is explained what are the qualities of those who are renounced like this. Let's go to the. Okay. Okay, so this first verse is from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter. And this is being spoken by Sri Havi. So this is one of the 5 Yogendras who met with Maharaj Nimi and answered his questions. Beautiful question answers. And Maharaj Nimi had asked that what are the qualities of 3 categories of devotees, Kanisht, Madhyam, and Uttam. And here explaining the qualities of an Uttam Mahabhagavat, he says, Sarva Bhuteshu Yaha Pashet Bhagvat Bhavam Atmanaha Bhutani Bhagvati Atmani Esha Bhagavato Uttamaha. So he's explaining these qualities of an Uttam Mahabhagavat. And the first thing he says, Sarva Bhuteshu Yaha Pashet, that he sees his own mood of attraction for Sri Krishna Chandra, the soul of all souls, in all jivas. So he sees Krishna in all the jivas and also sees all living entities residing within the shelter of Krishna. So, meaning he does not differentiate between anyone and sees each and every person as an eternal servant of the Lord. And we saw this with Gurudev. One person, if I've met in my life, who was an embodiment of this mood, Ishil Gurudev. He never, ever differentiated between anyone. One could come from any mutt, from any organization, may not be his disciple, anyone else's disciple. He would give himself completely to anyone who was interested in learning from him. So never made any differentiation. So next he quotes from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is where Lord Kapil Dev is speaking to Mother Devahuti. Mai anyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham mat krite tyakta karmanaha tyakta swajana bandhavaha. He says, Lord Kapil is saying to Mother Devahuti, that one who worships no one but me and who therefore engages bhaktim kurvanti ye dridham. Dridham means completely dedicated, completely situated in that bhakti, anyen, one-pointed bhakti to Krishna, mat krite tyakta karmana. He gives up every activity and all the relationships for rendering service unto me. So this is again the quality of one who is completely renounced. And then again, from the 11th canto, another verse he quotes, Visrajati hridayam na yasyat sakshat dhari avashabhihito api aghauganashaha pranay rasanaya dhritangri padmaha sabhavati bhagvat pradhan uktaha. So here he says that if one utters even without intent Sri Harinam in an offenseless mood, at once heaps of sins accumulated through many lifetimes are destroyed. That is the power of chanting one Shuddh Nam, or even if one chants without intent, but he chants it offenselessly. Such a person thereby binds Sri Hari's lotus feet within his heart with ropes of love and is considered the best of devotees. So basically, anyone chanting offenselessly with complete devotion is an Uttam Bhagavad. So here he is explaining the symptoms of those who are high quality devotees, and he says, but such devotees are very, very rare. And if one gets the association of such a devotee, one should consider himself extremely fortunate to attain their association. The next question he asks, and we'll read that question, briefly discuss it, and then continue next time. The next question he asks a very important question. He says, these days, young men often renounce household life and adopt the dress of the renounced order. They establish a place for the sadhus to congregate and begin to worship the deity of the Lord. After some time, they fall into association with women again, but do not give up chanting Harinam. They maintain their hermitage by collecting alms from many places. Are such men tyagi or grihast bhaktas? So the question is asking, and see, was at the time, this was a situation, and even at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and history repeats itself, right? And this happens always, that the pure spiritual principles are established, the Lord either comes himself or one of his empowered incarnations or pure devotees, they come. They establish pure spiritual principles. But it is the effect of time that slowly things start becoming diluted. In a few years, things will become diluted. And then so much corruption creeps into the spiritual uh, process. And then again, one of his empowered devotees will come to again reestablish. So this happens, this is a cycle that repeats itself. So this is the time he's talking of, when he's saying that nowadays we see that many times even young people, what they do, they give up their home and then they go and open a temple. Because especially in India, this is a very good way of making a livelihood, and it is true even today, that you can go, people, sometimes you will be amazed, and many of you are from India, have visited, you can even open a temple on the side of a road. You can put a deity of Hanumanji or Kali, or you can put something. And similarly, there are so many mazars. The Muslims, they do the same thing. They will just some place on the street side of a road, in the middle of the road, they will do it, and nobody will ever come. Even though this is government land or unauthorized construction, nobody would come to remove it, because people have faith. People will come and offer money, and now this becomes a great livelihood. So he says what happens, they will go and open a temple like this, but then they become, they start become attached to women, or start engaging in wrong activities, but they don't give up chanting the holy name. So his confusion is, would they be called householders or would they be called renounced? Because in the first place, they renounced everything and they opened a temple, but now again they have probably married someone, or they have some relationships. Unfortunately, now the same things are seen today. And again, there's so many cases like this even today in India, especially. So he's saying, what should such people be called? Anant Das ji says that, well, you have raised many important questions and I will answer them one by one. So the first thing he talks about, because he said that some young people, they give up their home. So he says age has nothing to do with one's level of devotion or one's eligibility to give up household life. One can be very young, like Naraji was just a young boy. When his mother passed away, he gave up everything and went to the ashram and started serving the sadhus there. Our own Gurudev, he left when he was only 25, 26 years old. So many of disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, they left at the age of 20s and became stalwart sannyasis, so fixed in their devotion and did great service. So first of all, he says eligibility to renounce household life has nothing to do with youth or old age. Some Grihastha Bhaktas are qualified by the sanskars, by the impressions that they have from their previous life. And then he gives the example of Shukdev Goswami. Because of his previous sanskars, that enabled him to renounce household life from the moment of birth. The moment he came out from the womb of Mother Bitika, he started going towards the forest. Of course, he's an eternal associate of the Lord, but we see many examples, even in the modern day, those who at a young age have been able to renounce and very strongly being able to maintain their vows of celibacy. But the only thing he cautions here, and this is the important thing he says one should only see that this eligibility is not artificial. If real detachment awakens, then youth is not an impediment. So artificial detach or giving it up artificially for the sake of saying, and as I was saying, this happens, and that's why our acharyas are cautioning. Therefore, we need to use discretion, because not everyone who is seemingly in the renounced order is actually renounced, right? Therefore, one should also be careful. That's what he's cautioning, that it should not be artificial. So if it is only the actual renunciation is not there, but artificially giving up, so now I can have followers or I can have a temple and now I can make easy living, then that only will lead to problem for that person himself as well as for the others. So then he asks, what is the real renunciation and what is false renunciation? We will continue this next time, but he says that real renunciation is so firm that it can never be broken at any time. When the real taste is there, then that taste for bhakti will never go away, no matter what. So we'll continue this in the next time. We are going through this a little bit slowly, and the reason is so many important points to understand. That's why in this part we are only going to be able to finish a couple of chapters of Jaiva Dharam. But hopefully, we will get the essence of what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining. So we'll stop here and see if anyone has any questions or comments. Okay. Anyone? Any question or any comment? And again, if you have any question, during the week also, you can always feel free to send it by WhatsApp. Yes, Ritu, do you have a question?
Not a question, just a thought that this topic was very, very, very practical. We go through all these things in day-to-day life. Like as a devotee, when the person is more and more aware of that something goes wrong. Suppose if person goes little bit more behind materialistic things, then because of that awareness, you get to know, okay, I'm moving towards on the wrong path. So sometimes it is very difficult. It's very difficult. It's kind of dilemma what to do now. I know that I don't have to do lot of endeavor to maybe to work a lot to earn more money. I need something very sufficient, but it's kind of tug of war, kind of a pull which happens, which is always there, I think, in the mind of devotee. What I find, it's very, very difficult to deal with every day. I know, okay, I don't have to do this, but still that Maya, that material force is so much that you tend to, sometimes drift that way.
Sure.
So I feel it's a very dilemma for a devotee. It's kind of एक वहां से खींच रहा है, एक वहां से खींच रहा है, बीच में. That life is difficult. I feel sometimes कभी जब awareness नहीं था young age में, तो ऐसे लगता था कि पता नहीं है तो we are happy on one side, but now it's kind of always.
Yeah, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? But ignorance is not
Yeah,
beneficial, right?
yeah,
Sometimes people say, oh, because we did not know about all these spiritual things, then we were in one sense happy because we were so engrossed in
yes.
Maya. But end of the day, ignorance is not
I know.
beneficial. But what you are saying is a very practical thing.
Yes,
Is everyone faces this challenge because see,
yes,
in the beginning, when we come to bhakti, right? So some renunciation is coming, some taste for bhakti is coming. So on one side, you are saying, no, I want to do more of this. But on the other side, you are also living in the society. You have that friend circle, the family, and you also want to make money. So one has to go through this process naturally, right? And that's what the whole point of varnashram or the householder life is,
yeah,
to go through it naturally. Because what I've also seen, and especially Swami Maharaj, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, when he came, he was a very empowered acharya, and he did create a revolution, and many people joined at a very young age. And that time, many of them had not even taken degrees or anything. So they joined, and as long as Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj was there, they had, because of his, power, they were able to stay. Of course, some drifted away even that time, but many of them were able to stay. But once he left this world, and this does happen with every acharya, and when he leaves, then some disturbance happens, and many slowly, slowly started becoming weak. And now when you become weak, you are not living in the temple, all kind of things happened. And then they, went to householder life. Now, when they went to householder life, now they were already in their 30s or late 30s or early 40s, but they didn't have any degrees, right? So now it became a big problem, right? How do you make money? Then start doing menial jobs, and that became kind of very stressful for spiritual life also. So therefore, one has to kind of learn to balance. One has to learn to balance. And therefore, the whole point Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that one should be very honest about one's level of detachment and renunciation, right? Very honest about it. And if one stays honest to oneself, then you will make progress slowly and steadily. Sometimes, again, based on how renounced one becomes, you will progress very fast. But the whole point is honesty is the best policy, right? So if you're feeling that, you know what, I still have some desires, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Chaitanya Shikshamrit, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, then yes, you engage in that activity in a limited way, but then also at the same time feel that, you know, I'm hearing all this katha, I'm associating, but still this desire is not going away. Oh, Prabhu, please help me take these desires away. So as long as one is cognizant of that and stays honest, because what happens if you snap it very quickly, then also it will boomerang, it will come back, you know, with full force, because that's the way the mind is. But the way, if the mind slowly develops the taste, develops the appreciation, the love, because the fact is, once that attraction for Krishna develops, once that genuine love for the holy name develops, then there is no power in Maya that it can distract you. No matter what it does, it cannot distract you, because that's how potent the holy name is. That's how beautiful Krishna and how sweet his pastimes and how beautiful devotional service is, right? But till one gets to that stage, one should just naturally go through this process. So, you know, and again, in householder life, if one has enough money, it is a good situation, because then you will be peaceful, right? So ultimately, in your given situation, whatever is beneficial for bhakti, if having, you know, but the only thing that you have to balance as is that not just crazily day and night, right? Only
Right.
trying to work hard to make money. If you should have, that's why, you know, like Srila Prabhupada also gave, you have a morning program and you have an evening program. You know, to start with, do this morning, you know, do your Guru Ashtakam, do your chanting, maybe read a little bit possibles, go to work, come back in the evening, do your Sandhya Aarti, offer bhoga, do some reading. In between, you have 8-9 hours to do your work, right? So slowly, then, you know, the time that you can devote, that increases, right? But
And
what you're saying is a very practical thing. And again, it's very important to stay practical. Idealism is one thing, right? We are all striving for that ideal stage, but we also have to be practical, and we have to balance practicality with idealism.
and I also feel Maya tries you a lot. Like the more you try to do, go on the bhakti path, and you say, okay, maybe I want to go on this path, I don't want to, more opportunities are thrown on your face like a luring, you know, like
Yes,
it
absolutely,
ऐसे
absolutely.
आपको खींचने की कोशिश करते हैं ना कि
Yeah.
आपको आपने किसी चीज को छोड़ दिया था कि आई डोंट वांट दिस थिंग, एंड सडनली दैट थिंग विल बी थ्रोन ऑन योर फेस. ओके, हियर इट इज इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू, नाउ लेट मी सी the challenge in your life, which way
Yeah.
you're going
This
to.
happens. And sometimes Krishna is testing,
Yeah,
right? And
yes,
he will come to that in the next couple of questions. Will come to that point. Krishna is actually testing sometimes.
yeah.
See, that's why I was saying we have to balance.
Mm.
Because, for example, a lot of our devotees are very qualified, right? And they are, you know, many of you people are engineers, doctors, they're very qualified. And if they want, they can do a lot, right? All of us had opportunities that we could do probably 10 times where we are today. But that's where you also have to use some discretion, right? And that's exactly what he was saying.
Mm.
You know, be a little careful, because opportunities will come. And again, even as per your bhagya, you may attain a lot. But now, you know, there's a Krishna Rekha comes in your hand that now Krishna is also testing how much you are going to spend your energy for accumulating wealth, which end of the day, we all know we are not going to be able to take a penny, right?
Yeah, right.
But spending that so much energy there when I have enough, right? See, if you don't have enough, yes, I need. But if you know I have enough, and if I continue working the way, I will be fine. That's where you have to also balance it.
Right. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone else? Angel Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a very nice class. I'm just the comment a moment about the ignorance being better. You know, I've only been trying to engage sincerely in the services and trying to chant for maybe a few years. I've been aware of Prabhupada and been aware of Krishna and the Shastra, but like actually putting effort, you know, it's only been, you know, a handful of years for myself. So sometimes my mind tries to play this trick on me, like, oh, you were happier before, and now you have to, you know, do so many activities and, you know, then I think about it and I remember the mental speculation. I remember the fear. I remember the constant doubt or like the uh, the fear of missing out, constantly having to be engaged in some activity or to be posting on social media, you know, and then finding a lot of validation from external factors instead of like trying to focus on pleasing the Lord.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's a gulf of difference where I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
now in the
See, mind
consideration.
plays these kind of tricks, as even Ritu Didi was saying. The mind sometimes, and yesterday also someone was asking the same question in our Hindi class, and everyone goes through these phases, right? Everyone, the mind will play the trick. Oh, you were so much better off before, right? Now you're doing. See, other people, they're also enjoying. They seem to be much happier than you. So mind plays these tricks, and that's exactly where when I started the class saying understanding the siddhanta is so important, that conviction is so important, so that when mind plays these tricks, you can ignore them or be able to rationalize to tell the mind no. I was actually not very happy before, and if you look at the condition of the people around, they may seem happy but they're not really happy, and
Yes.
what I've received is so much more valuable. It's just that my own anarthas, that I'm not experiencing that bliss that I would have be otherwise experiencing, right? So, but yes, that's absolutely true. That the mind does play these kind of tricks.
But this process is also extremely purifying, that even like a little bit of, because I still keep contact with some of my friends from, you know, before chanting japa and stuff like that, and they're also doing some independent study, maybe watching some classes online, or they call me to talk about the things that they've been musing in their mind, and normally I read them, you know, one shlok and one purport, and I noticed that later on they're telling me they're progressively moving toward having better habits, or, you know,
Mhm.
trying to have a deeper consideration of their spirituality when it's not something I'm pressing on them. It's just naturally, you
Yeah,
know.
it happens, right? We all compare ourselves. We have all improved, right? Devotional life has 100% help us become much better, right? So many bad habits giving away, bad association. And if had we had not received this mercy, then we would be, suffering like many others are.
Mm.
So yeah, we
So there's,
are without a doubt. That's without a doubt, the fortune that we have received is invaluable.
but
We
if
just have
we're
to realize
if
it.
we're receiving the mercy, we're also having to give. Like we should, like if something happens, like we were saying about the maybe some misunderstanding or some point of contention at the temple, like we should automatically maybe want to take the reservation of like, you know, the like, okay, you know, whatever's going on is okay because we've already received that mercy from the Lord. Like maybe the
Yeah.
Lord beats us a little bit, but not as much as he could have, you know.
Yeah. So one thing and I think it will come late in this next time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a very important thing. He says people will do things and people will say things, right? But you will receive the fruits of what you have resolved to do,
Hmm.
right? So, and these are again all different tests, whether it's a temple or outside the temple. Again, Maya testing in different ways, right? So, again, if we are not strong, if I know that I have come here to get Krishna, and of course, as long as I'm getting that, of course, sometimes, things go the wrong way completely, then one has to also use the discretion. But a lot of times it is our own anartha that is manifesting in terms of this resistance. Oh, this person did that bad to me, or this thing happened, I'm not going to come again. And a lot of people happen. This
Yes.
happens to a lot of so therefore one should so what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, one is responsible for what you are responsible for, what you resolve, right? People will say things and people will do things. Like Srila Prabhupada will say, at the end of life, we all have to fly our own plane, right? So you pass the test, you will get the benefit. No one else will get the benefit. So all the challenges, if you look at our own Guru Varga, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, when he came to America, just look at their lives, how many challenges they faced. We can't even imagine the challenges they faced. But they were completely steadfast, so much convinced, right? So much devoted, and see what wonders they did. So it is the test of our own devotion and dedication and level of surrender when we face all these situations.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Right?
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time and really appreciate it. So we'll meet again next Sunday. Till then, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Bol Gurudev ki jai.
Prabhu, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank-
much, class.
Oh, this is your joining from China.
Yes, yeah, Harikesh and I, we were attending your class. Just wanted to thank you so much. And all the content covered and the question asked by other devotees were just right on for me. That's what I was needing today.
Okay, great. So this time actually is like 8 o'clock, right? You're exactly 12 hours ahead,
yeah.
correct?
Our Monday morning. So Monday
Oh, your
morning.
Monday morning. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah, the
Nice to
Hindu.
see you, and nice to see you, Harikesh. Hari Bol, Harikesh. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Yeah, he wanted to say Dandavat Pranam to you, but
Dandavat. I always remember him. Okay. So we'll
was
see you
very
next Sunday.
fast.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.